Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. To all our LinkedIn Live viewers, wherever you are, and if you're watching this recording down the line, welcome to the post event conversation on globalization and deglobalization. A little bit about me. I'm John Cherian. I'm a coach, a practitioner. I partner with individuals and organizations to build effectiveness and efficiencies for maximum business impact. Before we dive into the conversation, let me just invite our panelists for conversation today: Anna Flavia, Claudio Damasceno, Renato, and Sinan Alhir. How are you guys doing today?
Hello.
Hello,
Morning.
Thanks.
how are you?
Very
Doing very
good.
well, thank you. Firstly, thank you for taking the time for this conversation. Our viewers would love to know a little bit about yourself. So, if you all can take a few words and then introduce a little bit about yourself before we get started. Anna, do you mind going first, please?
Yes. Hello, good evening, good morning, good afternoon for all. Thank you for the invitation. First of all, I will apologize if I stutter a little bit on the conversation. It's a long, long time that I don't have the opportunity to explain and to have a depth conversation in terms of using my English and poor skills. So in advance, I apologize for any mistake. I am a philosopher, but I also work as a researcher, a chief researcher in artificial intelligence applied to blockchain and also into ethics points. I, I am a teacher as well, giving classes that try to circumscript all those subjects. So I would say that I try to be as much as polymath that someone could be. That's it. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you, Anna. Renato?
Uh, Hello, everyone. My background is in computer engineering. Today, I work basically as a digital business consultant and as an insights professional. I like to explore the complexity of the world and to understand the forces that shape our environment. And I'm a very curious person. I have past having panels just as this with Si Alhir. And today is joining my two great friends, Anna and Claudio, and also John. Nice to meet you, John, for our
Same
first
here.
time together.
Claudio, please.
Well, nice to meet you all. Hope you enjoy the conversation. I work with companies they want to change, either because they have problems or because they want to grow. And I could say I'm a general practitioner in companies. And my background is finance, economics. But nowadays, technology is not only our language, but our way to make things change fast and deeply in the companies. So I hope we enjoy the conversation.
Looking forward to it, Claudio. Sai.
Thank you so much. A pleasure being with all of you, and likewise to be able to participate. Ever so briefly, I'm a coaching consultant. Likewise, my focus is transformation and change. And as I describe it, if you will, I partner with organizations to really help them calibrate their business models and their operating models for impact in the world. Particularly, my focus is around what I like to call the sacred triad, really helping organizations deal with reality, which is not always easy to confront, as we all know, to say it lightly. Reality is very, very key. Likewise, to confront our own human nature, which is not always good or bad. It just is in many ways. And then by all means, our own identity to really bring those through awareness and achieve that impact. If you have been doing this, as I like to say, a little bit too long, as I like to say, a practitioner at heart with over 40 years, as I like to say again, really theory-driven practice and practice-informed theory. Everything I'll be sharing, likewise, is in our conversation is pretty much discovered through practice. I'm a practitioner at heart, as I mentioned, and backed by theory. I've also authored numerous books that definitely you can Google me on, as the audience knows. And by all means, really looking forward to learning and exploring together with this group. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Sai. This is what I love about these kind of conversations, right? People from varied backgrounds, varied experiences coming together and talking about one topic, and the variety of perspectives that you get is what our viewers value a lot. Before I set the stage, right, if you all can just give a small perspective of globalization and deglobalization as to what it means to you, we can get started and dig deeper dive into the conversation. Whoever wants to go first.
I
Yeah,
think
I
Sai.
think
I think Sai should start on that. Okay.
okay.
We should let Sai go last. Claudio, Renato.
Well,
Okay, I can go.
go
Okay.
ahead.
My view of the globalization, since the start of the pandemic, we saw problems with supply chains in the world. We saw uh, prices are rising in different countries, and energy prices, shipment prices. What's looks to me is that physical transportation of goods and of goods is becoming more difficult to to happen. And on the contrary, in the opposite movement, the digital goods are becoming less attraction. It's becoming more easy to the flow of services and information. So I think this is a good paradigm for us to explore. We are deep diving the digital world. The physical world is starting becoming more not more like it's more. I think it's more a friction. It's happening, and when we are digitizing the process, and I think this is a thing we have a big opportunity to discuss.
It's interesting. And if I could add to that, what I'm very concerned about nowadays is the shift in the power. I mean, in the world, the companies, mainly the big corporations, the multinationals, and the government are starting to share power in a way it never happened before. And it's amazing how some governments, for example, China, is leading with powerful companies and telling the world who is the boss. And nowadays, while we are working with a very competitive environment, we have companies building a connection all over the world, challenging the power of the governments. And on the other hand, we have people learning how to act in the digital world, learning how to act in a world where many kinds of works are becoming redundant over the night. And we ourselves are learning how to learn on the one hand and learning how to put it into action on the other hand. That what is very it's a huge challenge that I'm very fond of nowadays.
Anna, you're on mute. No worries. Yep.
Beg your pardon. It turns out that today was a complicated and intense day for myself in terms of geopolitical discussions. My view, and this point, to go straight to the point, is that we have been thinking about this subject with the same perspectives for a long time. It seems like it has to do with a consolidated view that comes from, for instance, Francis Fukuyama in the end of story perspective, that at the end of the day, we should go to a common point, or this common point was the natural end of the road. But for me, deglobalization has to do with borders and physical walls, still far from being pacified, even though economic and the capital demands free flow of information as the main point of the whole situation. So I think we should take a step behind and try to re-understand our geopolitical and border questions as the main perspective of all technology. It is a challenge, an eternal overview that must be added to this. But at a certain point, we have to go back and restart to think in geopolitical questions again. That's my first initial kick.
Thank you, Anna. Sai?
Excellent. And really, really kind of tapping into what everyone has already mentioned, I think the globalization, deglobalization conversation itself, if you will, it really is around integration and connectedness across the whole landscape of the world, if you will. So it's interesting in the conversation that it's not for or against, but it's really leveraging, retaining what is constructive from both and challenging what is perhaps destructive from both. Saying that, if we consider some of the key words that already the panelists have mentioned, there's an economic factor, there's a political factor, there's a cultural factor, right? There's an environmental factor, amongst many other factors. And it really is and I love exactly, Anna, to use your word, we have to rethink, if you will, the global forces, the local forces, and the forces that intermingle all that, basically. So it truly is an opportunity for us to rethink our future. And that's a very, very broad statement, but I think the panelists really said it. The folks here said it much better than I did. I'll put it that way.
Well, there's a lot of conversation lately saying that from a globalization standpoint, we are on the crossroads. Is it true? What makes us feel so?
Well,
okay, I think I can make a point. I think Claudio can complete. I think we are in terms of geopolitical aspect. I see the question of sovereignty of the countries regarding data. There are many new data restrictions right now, like GDPR in Europe, LGPD in Brazil, CCPA in California. There is the issue of where the location of the data centers, where the data, the physical location of digital data is going to be. Also, we have a recent phenomena that's the generative AI, like GPT-3, and like now we have like Chat GPT-3. Yeah, not GPT, GPT-3.5. It's a new version of GPT-3. Like we have a lot of the creative work, and the world is changing too fast. I think there are many questions that arise in this new deglobalized, physical globalized world, but globalized, more free flow of information. I see this is a contradiction. I think we will have a lot to explore regarding that.
that's true. Yeah, and I just would add that nowadays when we have the boundaries, the countries, and on the one hand we have the data, on the other hand we have the resources, and it's very interesting how the companies and the world are fighting for the results. I mean, natural results, goods in general, and also trying to cope with the pace in which technology changes. I see nowadays we know people are very sure we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, but we actually don't know the direction to take. And just like Anna said, I mean, perhaps we should take a step back, but on the other hand, we are being run over by reality, just the way we were when COVID started. So what should we do? We can't wait, we can't act. And I mean, courage, some people say courage nowadays is a very important asset to take the first step and go ahead. So I think nowadays asking questions and looking for opinions that are different from the ones we had in the past might be something to try to live with, and try to build together, not only knowledge, but building actions by working hand to hand with people we never met before, countries we never met before, business partners we are just about to meet. And I think that's the new world.
I think we have a bigger problem than this. We are considering, when we say geopolitical issues or questions, we are considering the regular nation states or state nations. What's the nation states, right? Okay. Yep. The current nation states and the current political conformation of our society. But it seems like to me that we have one extra actor playing a different role here. And I think that we are really seeing at the beginning of a movement where the political constructs are being defied by another player in this game, which I think that you guys use also this expression, the platform states made from the platforms. So this kind of perspective, this kind of overview, it brings much more confusion, certain of indefinity in terms of what is going to happen. Looking back into geopolitical terms also, we have this actor bringing an extra charge of confusion for the whole process. We see also that the capital, as long as it's getting stronger and bigger and so on, needs more space. And the current nations are much more concerned about taking the stability of the borders and frontiers like a priority, but it stops the flux, the economic flow from capital that capital is asking for. So how going to be between those three different main actors of the whole process? And data has no owner. At the end of the day, we say, oh, tech companies owns the data. I don't agree with that. I think that data has no owners, not in terms of being an ethical question, or I'm telling this because I don't think that data does not belong to anyone, but data belongs to itself. So it's a question of capture and trying to, at the end of the day, put in a certain kind of flow that benefits one of the actors or another one of the actors. I think we should also consider this.
So truly a crossroads. I think, John, you used the word crossroads. I think exactly as folks have pointed out. There's a few things that you all mentioned that I kind of want to just touch on and then ask a question likewise as this is unfolding. Definitely a crossroads where we have to rethink. Claudio used the word power, if you will. There's a power dynamic that is shifting in any transformative time, right? There's a power dynamic that's shifting. I love the question, Renato, that you mentioned. Is the world changing too fast? That's a very, very interesting question to consider. And then we can be run over by reality, exactly as you mentioned, and the confusion and the actors at play, as Anna mentioned. So it's all intersecting. So the question that comes to my mind, if you will, and I would add on to it, this is pretty much the economic landscape, the power shifts, and the cultural dynamics underneath all that, both geopolitical, local, global, all of those factors. The question that comes to my mind is really, how do people, let alone survive and thrive in this time, and really just make it through? When COVID hit, right, everybody just wanted to get through. How do we take that trans-normal view as we encounter this time? And I love what you said, Anna, about data, by the way. So I kind of want to come back to that one. That's a whole different thread of conversation.
Yeah. Well,
Renato, I think that you should try to answer.
John, would you like to add something?
Definitely lots, but I am here to hear from you all. But to add to that question, right?
Okay, no problem. I think I can add something related with
please.
space and transition and technology. I like a lot to study Marshall McLuhan. Marshall McLuhan says that the medium is the message, but also that technology stains the human body. So the human acts on the environment, and the environment also acts on the human. So I think there is a prediction I had some years ago that for each 5 years ahead is like 20 years of change we are going to see in society. So I think like in the next 20 years, we are going to have a change in society in almost the past century. I think that things are becoming too fast. The technology is advancing far quicker than our culture. I don't know if everyone agrees, but I think there is a gap in a delay in how we are going to adapt to the possibilities that arises with the current state of innovation. Is what we could say about Schumpeter curves, correct? So here I think this is just a thought that could depend.
Peter.
Renato, knowing that things are changing this fast, and like you're saying, right, every day we've been run over by reality. And then, like Anna said, governments have to do more. But if we just leave it on the government, then every government or every agency is going to look into their interest, their people. There is another perspective as enterprises, as organizations. We also have a role or responsibility to play in this, right? That being set aside, how are enterprises even dealing with this uncertainty of not knowing what's in store tomorrow?
I think that as much as we, as being human, woman, man, whatever, we are lost in the whole process. Enterprises, which are not more than a bunch of humans collaborating and so on, they are even more lost than personal individuals. So I would like to turn my view to maybe another perspective also. I do not think that technology is going too much fast and we are losing our humanity or whatever in the whole process. We have to think that during our history, I mean 10,000 of years at least, we've been defining ourselves as human under different perspectives. For the Greek, we used to be the zoon politikon, the political animal, which means that the community were the more important, was so on that time the most important thing. Then we had Descartes that changed our definition of humanity for the rationality, the cogito ergo sum. I think so. I do exist. So after this, we had the structuralist people. I mean, French, Foucault, Deleuze, and so on, that used to define ourselves like a bunch of structures that would define human being. And now we are much more regarding or tending to define ourselves as a piece of neuron. Neuron, is that correct? The word? A piece of neuron. So we are smashing ourselves, smashing, and cutting our definitions, and we are merging somehow these definitions in another subjective perspective. We used to be political animals, then rational animals, then society animals, and now we are leaving the biologic perspective and moving ourselves into a full subject perspective. And this reflects also into the business, because digital is asking us to live in the same into two different layers, one of them totally regarding subjectivity. And as long as frontiers, enterprises, humanity definition as culture, values, and so on, are not pre-existing in nature, we tend to deal this with a subjective overview. So enterprises are also dealing with this kind of pain, and it's not going to be easy. Nobody really knows, I think, the answer. My only point is follow the money at the end of the day, okay? Even if we are tending to be much more subjective in our decisions and in our overview, we still got bodies. So that's the point. And you can correlate this also with the geopolitics, pains, globalization, and deglobalization. It's something like we tend to be much more subjective, but we still act in a physical and material way. Am I being too much confused?
No, it's
No.
perfect. It's perfect, actually. Yeah, please, Claudio, please chime in if you have a thought, and then I'll chime in after you.
Yeah, just to give you some more ideas so that you can wrap up. I was taking from the philosophical view Anna just mentioned, in going back to Plato's cave. And I mean, we are trying to see what's happening, and we have a certain sight of reality from our own background. And in the companies, the organizations, I think people are also just like ourselves, learning and trying to predict the future, and also the government. And when we talk about government and companies, we have people in charge, and all of them trying to guide the company or the government towards a direction sometimes we ourselves don't agree. We have here in Brazil, just like in the United States, people thinking in opposite directions and acting in opposite directions. And my understanding of nowadays is that there must be a new thread to sew the connection, not only in companies or in government, but in among different nations, and
Cross borders.
just like that. And I think this connection, this thread, this perhaps this connection we are about to build, or we need to build, might be ethical, just like Anna mentioned. I mean, there must be some connection that goes beyond knowledge, beyond rational knowledge, so that we can try to reach what we aim for the future, and then we put the pieces together to build the world we believe in, knowing that other people don't believe the same way.
Well said, Claudia. Sai.
Yeah, I love the integration and the points that are coming together. The question that I'm going to say, the question or the phrase that came out, and as you put it out there, and Claudia, you built onto it likewise, we are on a journey to define what it means to be human. And that's a journey that continues to unfold. And we need to rethink that continuously from a geopolitical perspective, from a ethical perspective, from a moral perspective, and business and technology intersect and inform that. I love the word, that one key word that Anna used, we are lost. But with that lostness, and I say, but it is an opportunity to experience utter freedom in our journey. And that is a very, very optimistic viewpoint, realistic to the future. And we have to learn, and this is what organizations, this is what individuals, what teams do as they transform. We have to learn to confront our own addiction to prediction and certainty. And that is a tremendous opportunity that we are all experiencing together across the landscape.
There is come VUCA and UDA. I think you can make a little thought about VUCA and UDA to complement.
My good friend, I could definitely say more on VUCA and UDA, but I'm eager to listen to you, good folks. I mean, I love what you're saying. So
I will make this integration because we love this subject. So here is the VUCA part of the problem. Volatility, uncertainty, complexity. What's the other one?
Ambiguity.
Yeah,
Ambiguity.
Yeah, and what happens is that, as everyone's told, we are lost. So how will we deal with complexity for uncertain scenarios? With micro steps, big steps. We have to be empirical. Me and Sai, we wrote an article about business experimentation last year that I defined digital empiricism. I created this acronym. But now I think we have to be empirical and experiment in all fields of life, not only business. So I think we have a big challenge, but also a huge opportunity. And I think that the key point is integration of different cultures. there is a theory called stable tension. I think I told to Si once in a panel. Is when you are everyone shares objective, a mission-driven approach. And this stable tension is how you make like the cultural landscape. You navigate the cultural landscape, different cultures, different time zones, on how you relate to each other. But the glue is the mission. So I think this is a small contribution I can give to all.
Always, your contributions are always good, Renato. Thank you so much. And definitely, there's more there. And I think you perhaps have a thought that would love to hear your voice.
Okay, I have a theory about this. What does it mean to be human, right? There's another, and I'm telling not under. I could say a hippie perspective. I'm not holding trees, as we say here in Brazil. I'm trying to be. I'm trying to set some common ground to us. I think we tend also to define ourselves as sapiens, the one who knows, right? And we separate technology from this common understanding what that says what a human could be, or what means to be human. We try to think in terms of technology, and technology means also capabilities of building storytellings, narratives, and so on. Okay, because voice it's a powerful amplification of our thoughts, and the language is the most technological thing that I can imagine that man could develop by himself or as a species. But there's a guy called Willem Flusser, which have asked us to switch our definition from sapiens to faber. Faber is a Latin word which means the one who does. We are homo faber. Why he has proposed this? Because he thinks that what defines human being is technology. Technology means to interact with outside towards a structured objective. We are the only species that really can do this. Our species can be sentient. They can have conscience, but in order to have an intention of act outside and bringing some building some things that does not exist, or using things that exist in a different perspective, this is a unique ability of mankind. So being technological is nothing more than an externality of our inner nature. So homo faber, it's much more accurate than homo sapiens. But because you can know, a lot of species can know, but there's one species that can really act with intention. So thinking under this perspective, we could bring technology into a different perspective, which is not conflicted with subjective and emotions and so on. It's a kind of an extension of our conscience, a natural extension of our conscience. So according to this, some conflicts, including ethical conflicts that we have regarding technology, if it's good or it's not, if it's natural or if it's not natural, could be bypassed. And we could start our discussion in a different term.
Well, I totally agree. Just comes to my mind the idea whether technology could be called natural for ourselves. And I mean, we are about to have ships to substitute mobile phones and things, making huge things, giving huge opportunities of information process and connections with other things using our brains. And I think we are also in a crossroads concerning what mean a human being might be. And another thing that concerns me a lot is that the distance between some people with higher input of information and access to technology from other people who have little information and little access to technology. And my vision of the future is that the gap, unfortunately, is going to grow, and we're going to have more people, the who we could call the have-nots, and fewer people with a lot of information, access to higher level of technology, and on the other hand, lots of people with some crumbs of technology to survive. And going back to what's natural and what's artificial, I think we can't go back, but our role in the world, and I could say in the universe, might change, because now we are looking for other countries, I mean, other planets to live on, to keep our species alive. And we're getting back to the beginning. We are genes of a certain animal trying to survive, reaching allies to keep what we believe on going on. And I think what Anna just told us might have a connection with what these people who are able to do things are going to do with this knowledge and the ability to do things.
Claudio, to end my contribution today here, I think we have deglobalization. We have a very difficult challenge to deal with. Is that as there is a trend towards supranational organizations, institution, global governance, we have also the difficulty to keep the traditions, the local traditions. We have a fragmentation, not only in technology that's happening towards the world. That is another topic we could discuss another day. But we have a fragmentation of culture. I think we have a very polarized world. The internet also contributes with that. But I think the key issue is identity. There is a fragmentation in culture. We have, like from Bauman, you have this liquid culture. There is a flow of forces that makes identity like dissolve. And I think that the main aspect is to have a sense of our inner self. And I think we have to have like a safety net. Each person must build their own safety net with the people who they share ideas. Can be friends, can be a remote friend, can be family, can be local community. But I think we are too technological. We need to get some steps back. We need to go slow, because technology, there is a philosopher I presented to Si, I forgot his name, is a French, that when you go too quickly, you can go to a wall. Technology too fast is dangerous. There is a book called La Bomba Informática, I think in Spanish. But basically, the idea is that the technological pace is dangerous if not have great conscience together to how to deal with technology. So I think that the human being must look inside to build his identity. Nation states also need to preserve some sense of identity, cultural traditions, but we must deal with the problems in a transnational way, because humankind, if we have like a mission for the 21st century, is how to solve problems cooperatively, not with competition, but we can compete, but we have also to cooperate. But we can keep ourselves, our sense of identity preserved in this task. But I think it is a very difficult challenge and equilibrium must be achieved. I think this is my final words.
Thank you, Renato. I like the way you say, right? A human should preserve his identity, but again, work for the whole, right? It's a pretty gray area and it's pretty challenging too. Anybody has any thoughts can throw some light on this.
Yeah, I think that we have much more asystolis, diastolis. Is that correct? When a heart pumps, we say systole, diastole. Systole, diastole. I don't know the English word to this. Sorry, but we have a systole, diastole process. Okay, we have centralized, then we decentralize, then we re-centralize again, and then we take centralize and decentralize. We both go move it to the cloud. So, which is another way of being centralized and no centralized at the same time. I still think that boundaries and definitions are by definition artificials, because there is nothing like a definition that's not made by human beings. So we can keep fighting on definitions without having any common agreement on that. In the beginning of our conversation, Renato said, oh, no, I think that was Si who said, we are free to try. Yes, we are free to try, and we must try. But having in mind that every time we try, someone will suffer and someone will lose on the process, because it's impossible to have all winners. And I mean, people, work, enterprises, companies, economic models, whatever. There is no way of everybody wins everything all the time. To have a winner, someone must lose something. So in this systole, diastole, in this pumping heart process, we are probably seeing a contraction now. But this contraction, there's an extra point which intrigues me, that the process is becoming faster and faster. It's like a heart that is being really pressured. This heart can explode, yeah, but it can become stronger. So I think it's a bet, and no one can say really what is going to happen. We can try to adapt ourselves. We can try to adapt our companies, knowing that probably we're going to be adapted for 2 days. Then next day we have to move again to another configuration.
Exactly. There's a lot of power. If you don't mind me chiming in, if you will, just to add a little bit. Anna, where you start off, the journey of, we return to identity, and we return to the whole notion of the externalities reflecting the internalities, exactly as you pointed out. And this is the same paradox and tension that exists within the individual and reality that exists between the local and the global, if you will. And it's continuous, really creative destruction in terms of reinventing ourselves all along the way. So it is a paradox that we have to confront. To your point, exactly as you said, it changes by the minute. And this is why it cannot be predicted. It can only be navigated, quite honestly, and navigated with a degree of both agility, resilience, and anti-fragility, which comes back to the core subjects. But I appreciate the recognition that is the globalization, deglobalization, that is the individual and the externality, and that is all the factors that we've been mentioning. So extremely rich, I'll say, intersection of concepts and ideas.
That's true.
And forgive me, Claudio, I think you might want to say something. Forgive me if I interrupted you.
No, I just want to say that talking about losing or winning, nowadays it's very clear the span of time we're aiming at. For example, CEOs nowadays have to offer results in 3 months. They have to make profit in a short time. It doesn't matter what. And I've seen myself in a few decades of work that some leaders kill the companies just to make some profit in the first year, in the first half year. And talking about the world, I mean, it's difficult to have what Renato called conscience. I mean, it's difficult to find the idea of conscience looking at our world in long span, the long time, the long run. Like, for example, people say China has a plan for the country for the next 50 or 100 years. Some people say there are some geniuses nowadays that plan 100 years ahead, but it's difficult to have some power, some people acting together to build the future, looking ahead as far as 20 years. Like now, we used to say strategic planning would take 3 to 5 years. Some companies like Disney plan 30 years in advance, and some other companies are doing the same. But again, when we are talking about the world and nations fighting for their futures using religions, beliefs to mold the future, I think looking of the span of time you're aiming at might make a difference of perspective, and something that might add to our conversation.
Thank you so much, Claudio. We are running on time and we are close to closure time. But before we close, any key takeaways, any guidance that you want to leave our listeners with?
Yes.
Anna, you can go first, please.
Thank you. I was trying not to talk, but it's irresistible.
Anna, please do not try not to talk. Please do talk.
Okay.
We want to hear your voice. Please go on.
I would like to discuss with you guys, all of you, in another opportunity. We have a confusion here, and I think that sometimes, it belongs to our time, the time that we live. We have a small perspective in terms of understanding the connection between scientific revolution and capitalism. And also, we tend to think that capitalism, it's the only way of, do not misunderstood me, okay? I'm not advocating for anything different, but we have to think that we were able to survive under tons of different social and economic rearrangements. In Europe, we had feudalism for more than 1,000 years, almost 2,000 years of feudalism, okay? And on the time, that worked for a lot. Okay, you can tell me, oh, it was another different time with another different perspective. Yes, but we still think that the way that we are doing the things in our economic model, it's the only way that things can be done. And I do not agree on that. I really do not agree on that, okay? That's my first point. And my second point, it's not exactly a second point. It's okay, just my one point, because it's going to be a long statement. And
Anna, we love your contributions. Feel free
Please continue, Anna.
I expect you guys to invite me to another opportunity, so I'll leave without this.
I keep the line of thought from Anna.
But hang on, Renato.
I'm a disciple of.
Okay. Hang on, Renato. I want to hear your voice as well, my good friend. Anna, you can't keep us waiting. You have to share. You can't keep us waiting like this. Please do share, and then Renato will chime in. Please do share, Anna.
I think in terms of nearby future, okay, our main concerns about globalization, deglobalization, and the whole of the big tech companies, for instance, or the main companies that are dealing the huge new technologies. I think that those companies, they are going to disappear, not to disappear. They are going to be strong and healthy, but they will disappear from our view. They are going to how is the word to this? Let me ask to Renato, afundar. They're going to sink.
Deep dive. They're going to deep dive.
They are going to dive, thanks. They are going to dive into in the whole infrastructure of our lives. So we are not going to see those companies anymore. They are still doing a lot of money. They're still doing huge business. Probably they will observe and control the main part of our lives, but we are not going to see this. So our concerns about how it's going to be about the future of those enterprises I think they will merge into our day-by-day infrastructure. They're going to be invisible, probably. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I can add something. So, Sai, just confirm with me. What
course,
Anna told us is the 6 Ds from the diamonds, correct? Do you remember that each Ds, I think, is dematerialized, correct?
Yep.
Everything is going to be invisible.
Yep.
Is
I think that's
digitization.
it's more than dematerialized. It's going to be ubiquitous, really ubiquitous. It's
Pervasive. Ubiquitous.
Ubiquitous. Yep. That's. I think that is the respectfully. I think that is the key word. It is ubiquitous at that point. Yes.
Yeah, but this is dangerous because this goes to an artificial omniscience of technology. Do you agree, Sai? Claudio, Anna?
Yes.
Technology like Skynet. We are towards a Skynet. You don't think, Anna?
I think in our data, it's real. I think we like to think that our data, it's very interesting. I think that we like to think that companies are really looking for a way of slice our thoughts and and to sell this to somebody else. I don't think so. I don't think as personally we are too much interesting. I think that's the big movements, and this is, I think that's much more Isaac Asimov foundation looking more than anything. So personally, it's not going to be a big problem. I think that as community, as mankind overall, maybe, but it's also a little bit of arrogance to think that someone is really interested in that single point that make me be myself. I don't think so. There's
not
a
a
lot
risk
of fantasy. No. I think people can be still full of surprises individually, but collectively we follow some specific patterns which are not too difficult to someone which not an artificial intelligence to predict.
Yeah, but we are not risking a surveillance state like technocracy.
Yeah, maybe, but who really cares about this in terms of if I'm not important as a person to anyone, because this is the point. We personally, as one single human being, we are not important. We are important as long as we add ourselves one to each other. So we should play the battle in another level, no, not in this level.
What level? What level? What level you are saying? Like abstract?
It's political. It's political. Technology cannot be separated from political issues anymore. I mean, it's insane. We still do this. We still are doing this.
I think there is a point on that because we talk about feudalism. I am a disciple of Carlos Nepomuceno. In his book, we talk about a new feudalism, like transnational companies. Who owns the platform? You become like almost a vassal in some cases. Like, Sai, I'd like your ideas about it. Claudio, I'd like your ideas, and John, I'd like your ideas. If we risk become vassals of new hours of like feudal digital feudals.
No, I'd just like to say, since we're running out of time, I think we could give it some more thought in the future. Very challenging ideas, and I'm very glad I'm doing what I like most, is thinking and learning. And I thank you all very much.
Love this, Sai.
So I love the conversation because I say because ubiquity, if you will, is actually balanced by reality, because reality is so rich. And that's why exactly, Anna, when you say yes, it's precisely it, if you will, because ubiquity is not a bad thing. Reality balances it. It's rich. We will surprise each other forever, quite honestly. There are patterns, but we will surprise each other. And the piece that I think is a pattern that you called out very explicitly, and I want to emphasize it, in order to achieve at a different scale, like Anna said, I'll say anti-fragility. There has to be fragility in the system. The individual almost doesn't matter, exactly as Anna said. The information about Sai is irrelevant. Sai will be gone in 20 years. Well, probably not even 20 years. Probably in 10 years I'll be gone. I'm
no,
older than
Si, we want you more 30 years with us. No. You are going to stay here. I'm going to be a long debate with you.
But think about the power of what Anna said. You've contributed to the gene pool, right? In whatever way, evolution will continue. You've done your contribution. You move on. The individual is less relevant in that context of the broader spectrum. So, I mean, that is a crux. And a lot of organizations, as we all know, organizations struggle with this. People struggle with this. It's not so. It's so. And if I could reach out and give you a hug, a virtual hug, I would. So if you will. It's a tremendous conversation, folks. Tremendous conversation. And you know,
we want to hear more of you, Claudio.
No, just that. I'm just also enjoying very much, and we could go on and on talking about the ideas for the future and also the present. But I just like to repeat the idea of there must be a new connection, a new thread, because as individuals we won't be able to face the challenges of the future. I mean, just like you all said.
Thank you so much, Claudio. And then now I know why Anna was saying I want to come back and meet all of you all again, because the discussion is not going to end over here. But thus far, be it globalization or deglobalization, we got to start thinking as humans, connect as humans across borders, because which are man-made, keep them aside, and let's start having a conversation for a win-win situation or somewhere to meet in the middle ground, because they're never going to be winners. But what is it that is going to do a good for the greater whole is where we need to start the conversation. And then for many more conversations to continue on this, we will look forward to having many more conversations on these topics as well. Same panelist. But before we leave, a big thank you to all the panelists and all the viewers. Have a wonderful evening or a wonderful day wherever you are. Thank you so much, guys.
You too.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.